Many kitchens that look incredibly expensive on Pinterest turn into nightmares after just a few months of use. This isn't due to bad luck. It's because of mistakes that most homeowners only realize once it's too late. You'd be awesome if you liked this video. 1. Designing cabinets before choosing appliances. A family I know recently spent over $45,000 remodeling their kitchen, choosing beautiful cabinetry and countertops, but when the refrigerator arrived, it protruded nearly 4 inches from the cabinet line. The website stated a depth of 24 inches, but when you factor in the front handle, back wiring, and ventilation, it actually needed almost 28 inches. The brand new kitchen, viewed from the side, showed the refrigerator sticking out like an out-of-place box. This is the consequence of a common mistake many people make when remodeling: finalizing the entire cabinetry layout before choosing specific appliances. They estimate a standard fridge and standard-sized oven, and then wait until the last minute to buy the equipment. But modern kitchen appliances vary greatly in size, especially depth and door clearance, so even a few inches difference can completely ruin the neat, built-in look you're hoping for. Many designers now do the opposite, choosing appliances first and then designing the cabinetry around them. Before finalizing the layout, get the specific model number for each appliance, not just a 36-inch fridge, but the exact model and its depth, including the handle and ventilation clearance. Counter-depth fridges often make a huge difference because they sit almost flush with the cabinetry, making the space look significantly neater and more upscale compared to standard-depth fridges. Range hoods are also often chosen last and can be quite problematic. If the hood is too wide for the distance between the upper cabinets on either side, or the ductwork wasn't included in the ceiling plan from the start, the result is usually having to cut cabinets or accept a misaligned hood, both of which are very difficult to fix after the kitchen is finished. Having appliances in the right place is only half the battle. The other half is whether you can open the oven door, pull out drawers, and walk around at the same time without bumping into someone. 2. Poor traffic flow. Imagine a couple cooking together. One person opens the oven to pull out a baking sheet while the other is at the sink washing vegetables. The oven door drops down, completely blocking the path between the island and the counter. The person holding the hot tray has no room to turn around, and both have to wait for each other in a space that should have been large enough for two. This situation isn't a major safety hazard, but it happens nearly every night and gradually makes you feel like the kitchen wasn't actually designed for someone who cooks. Most of these problems start with the island. Many people want the largest island possible because it looks luxurious in photos, but when an island takes up too much space, the surrounding walkways narrow to the point where every movement feels cramped. The minimum distance between an island and the counter or opposite wall should be 42 inches. This allows one person to pass comfortably, even when a drawer or appliance door is open. If two people cook together frequently, 48 inches is much more comfortable. While 36 inches might look passable on a blueprint, in real life, it's so tight that you'll eventually start avoiding cooking together. The distance between the sink, stove, and fridge, the work triangle, is still the most fundamental rule for a smooth workflow. When cooking, you move between these 3 points constantly. If you have to walk around an island every time you grab an ingredient from the fridge, that triangle is broken, even if it looks balanced on paper. The best kitchens are those where you don't have to think about moving, because everything is naturally within reach. 3. Not enough outlets. I once saw a beautifully remodeled kitchen with a gorgeous white quartz island, but that island had absolutely no outlets. The homeowner had to run an extension cord from the opposite wall every time they wanted to use a stand mixer or an air fryer on the island. That cord sat stretched across the floor for nearly 2 years until they paid an electrician to tear up the floor and run wiring, a project that cost 3 times more than it would have during the initial remodel. In the past, kitchen counters only needed plugs for a toaster and a coffee maker. But modern kitchens have air fryers, blenders, stand mixers, rice cookers, espresso machines, and a variety of other small appliances that all need power. The NEC National Electrical Code requires an outlet at least every 4 feet of countertop, but with today's usage, many contractors recommend placing them every 2 to 3 feet, especially in prep areas where you use multiple devices at once. If your island is used for prep or as a breakfast bar, it should have at least 2 outlets, one on the prep side and one on the seating side. Pop-up or flush mount outlets keep the island surface clean, when not in use, but stay ready when you need them. They don't cost much more than traditional outlets. Combination outlets with built-in USB-A and USB-C charging are only about $15 to $25 more than standard ones, but they are incredibly convenient for families who gather in the kitchen and need to charge their phones. Solutions like hidden outlets, under-cabinet power strips, or flush-mounted receptacles help maintain a clean look while providing ample power. These are the kinds of details people rarely think about in a showroom, but they affect your daily convenience for years. Adding them after the kitchen is finished is always many times more expensive than including them from the start. If you live in an open-concept home and enjoy cooking flavorful or oily meals, the next section explains why your whole house smells like dinner long after you're done. 4. Choosing a range hood based on style alone. You finish cooking dinner, turn off the stove, sit down on the sofa, and realize the whole house smells like a faux restaurant. Curtains, sofa cushions, and even the coat hanging near the stove all smell, even though you've had the hood on the whole time. If you live in an open-concept house and experience this frequently, the problem isn't that you're cooking with too much oil and grease, but that the hood isn't doing its job properly. Downdraft hoods are the most common culprit. They look neat and are completely hidden in the countertop, but smoke rises naturally, while downdraft hoods draw smoke from below, meaning they're pulling smoke in the opposite direction of physics. With high-temperature stir-fries or sears, they can't draw the smoke quickly enough, and the remaining smoke spreads throughout the house. But choosing a powerful hood isn't always the solution. In a house built to modern airtight standards, a hood with an excessively high CFM will draw a large amount of air out without a replacement source, creating negative pressure and drawing dirty air from the bathroom or fireplace exhaust back into the house. In the US, hoods over 400 cubic feet per minute are required to have a makeup air system, but many people don't know this until after installation. If you cook smoky dishes, a canopy hood that extends to cover the entire cooktop below is still the most effective, although it's not as compact as a downdraft. And whichever style you choose, make sure the ductwork is vented to the outside instead of just a recirculating filter, because recirculating hoods essentially just filter odors and blow them back into the cooktop instead of actually expelling smoke from your home. 5. Lower cabinets instead of drawers. A family I know spent over $40,000 on a kitchen remodel, and everything looked perfect. But after 3 months, their biggest frustration wasn't the countertops or the backsplash. It was the fact that every time they needed a pan, they had to kneel on the floor and reach deep into a lower cabinet to find it. Large pots got pushed to the back, containers were stacked haphazardly, and mixing bowls were hidden in the dark. Every time they needed something, it felt more like digging through a storage unit than cooking. Traditional lower cabinets are cheaper than drawers, so many people choose them during a remodel. On a blueprint, they look fine, but during daily cooking, the deep recesses of a cabinet quickly become dead zones that no one wants to touch. Items inside get cluttered because there's no way to see everything at once. Deep drawers completely change this experience. When you pull a drawer out, the entire contents are visible from above, no kneeling or rummaging required. Full extension drawers are usually about 20% to 30% more expensive than lower cabinets, but the amount of usable storage space effectively doubles because there are no more dead zones in the back. When everything has its own place, deep drawers for large pots and shallow drawers with dividers for knives and tools, your kitchen workflow becomes significantly faster and less exhausting. Another common mistake is placing drawers inside cabinet doors, meaning you have to open a door first before you can pull out the drawer. It might not sound serious, but after doing that two-step process several times a day for months, it becomes a major annoyance that you'll regret more than almost any other design choice. 6. Protruding cabinet handles. You're carrying a pot of hot water from the stove to the sink. You turn quickly, and your pants pocket gets snagged on a cabinet handle. You don't fall or get burned, but it startles you, and you nearly spill the water. The first time, you laugh it off. By the 10th time, you're annoyed. By the 6th month, you genuinely hate those handles, even though they looked sharp and modern in the showroom. Oversized handles and T-bar handles protrude quite far from the cabinet surface. In kitchens with narrow walkways or small islands, that snagging hazard is multiplied by every door and drawer. Pockets, aprons, sleeves, and dish towels can get caught whenever you turn or walk by. This is a micro frustration that builds up over time until you seriously consider replacing all the hardware. Beyond the snagging, overly large handles create visual clutter on the cabinet surfaces, making the cabinetry look fragmented and heavier than necessary, especially in small kitchens where your eyes are close to every surface. Integrated pulls or J-pull handles solve both problems because they are built into the edge of the cabinet door rather than sticking out. They aren't much more expensive than traditional T-bars, on average, about $3 to $8 more per handle depending on the brand. For a kitchen with 30 to 40 handles, the total difference is only around $100 to $300, a tiny fraction of a total remodel budget. Edge pulls or channel pulls are also popular modern choices that keep the cabinet face flat and clean while remaining easy to open. Once the small details are handled, there's a bigger issue that appears after a few months of living in the space. Clutter, overflowing from every cabinet. 7. Not having a dedicated pantry. When a remodel is fresh, every kitchen looks clean and organized because there isn't much in it yet. But after a few months of real life, the countertops start getting taken over by cereal boxes, protein powder, paper towels, vitamins, coffee makers, air fryers, and bulk items from Costco that have nowhere else to go. The problem isn't that the kitchen is small, it's that there is no proper place to hide things. Many people invest heavily in islands, backsplashes, and appliances but fail to allocate enough space for a pantry or a dedicated food storage area. When dry goods, backstock, rarely used small appliances, and bulk buys have no home, they end up on the counter. The kitchen immediately looks more cluttered than it actually is, no matter how often you clean. If you don't have room for a walk-in pantry, a tall pantry cabinet about 24 inches wide that goes all the way to the ceiling with pull-out shelves can hold as much as a small closet. Pull-out shelves are crucial here. They allow you to see everything at the back, preventing items from being forgotten and expiring. If the kitchen truly lacks space, many families use a nearby closet or a section of the laundry room as a secondary pantry. It doesn't have to be pretty. It just needs shelves to keep your kitchen counters clear. However, having a pantry without internal organization will quickly turn it into a black hole. Clear containers for dry goods, labeled bins for snacks, and lazy Susans for spices are 3 small additions that keep a pantry functional rather than just a place to stuff things and close the door. 8. Too much open shelving. Open shelving has a problem that no one tells you about in the showroom. It looks beautiful exactly once, right after you've styled it for a photo. After that, it becomes a daily battle to keep it looking tidy, because real life isn't as curated as a photo shoot. A kitchen isn't like a living room. It's an environment filled with grease, steam, and fine dust, especially if you stir-fry or sear meat. Closed upper cabinets protect your dishes from all of that. Open shelves do not. Glassware starts to develop a thin film of oil, white bowls turn yellow, and you have to wash everything at least once a week if you don't want the kitchen to look neglected. Many people handle it for the first few months, but eventually grow tired of the constant maintenance. There's also a significant difference in storage capacity. A 30-inch wide upper cabinet with 2 shelves inside can hold nearly 3 times as much as an open shelf of the same size, because you can stack things deep inside where no one can see them. On open shelves, everything must look neat from the front, so you can't store as much. This often pushes ugly but necessary items down into the lower cabinets or pantry, overloading those areas as well. The most effective approach is to use open shelving for about 15% to 20% of your upper storage. Perhaps 1 or 2 shelves near a window or the range hood to create some visual breathing room. Keep the other 80% as closed cabinets. You get the beautiful accent without sacrificing storage or turning yourself into a full-time shelf stylist. Next is a material mistake that many people realize too late, involving the one thing almost everyone dreams of. 9. Marble countertops. I'll be blunt because this is a topic where many people will disagree. Marble is beautiful. No one denies that. But being beautiful and being right for your lifestyle are 2 different things. The number of people who regret choosing marble for their kitchen countertops is higher than you think. The issue isn't that marble is weak. The issue is that a kitchen is a high-impact environment. Lemon juice, vinegar, coffee, red wine, olive oil, and cleaning products touch the counter almost every day, and marble reacts to most of them. Etching, those dull, faded spots that appear when acid hits the surface, usually happens before staining does. On polished marble, etching is very obvious and cannot simply be wiped away. Over time, the countertop loses the shine and crispness it had on day one. What wears people down isn't the actual stains. It's the feeling that they always have to be on guard. Every time you set a wine glass down or slice a lemon, you have to be extra careful. The kitchen starts to feel like a source of stress rather than a place of comfort. For a family that cooks every day, that isn't an experience they want to live with for the next 15 years. If you want natural stone with less maintenance, quartzite is often recommended by designers. It's harder than marble, resists acid better, and many varieties have veining that is just as beautiful. If you absolutely must have marble, a honed matte finish is more practical than polished because etches are less visible on a matte surface. Additionally, new sealing systems like ToughSkin can protect the surface much better than traditional sealers. It adds about $15 to $25 per square foot to the cost, but it significantly reduces the risk of damage. 10. High-maintenance flooring. Kitchen floors are the most heavily used surface in the entire house, yet they're also the quickest choice for most people. Many spend weeks comparing countertops and then finalize their flooring choice in a single afternoon, just because it looked good in the showroom, and that's where the trouble begins. Dark wood floors are the example I've regretted the most. They look luxurious and dramatic when new, but after a few months, dust, crumbs, footprints, and pet hair are all clearly visible on the dark surface. You clean it in the morning, and by afternoon, it's already dirty. As a result, you have to clean your kitchen floor twice as often as with a neutral-colored floor just to keep it looking equally clean. Softwood flooring sounds warm, but the kitchen isn't a gentle place for it. Dropping a cast iron pan once leaves a dent. Dragging a chair around daily leaves scratches. And in families with young children, those marks appear faster than people realize. Tile is no exception. If you choose a porous type and don't seal it properly, oil and sauce stains will seep in over time and cannot be completely wiped clean. Luxury vinyl plank is becoming the most popular choice for kitchen floors because it's water-resistant, scratch-resistant, and usually costs only half to one-third the price of hardwood. Many LVP products now look almost indistinguishable from real wood, but you don't have to worry every time you spill water or drag chairs. If you still choose tile, pay attention to the grout color because light grout in the kitchen will discolor after a few months even with frequent cleaning, while darker grout or epoxy grout will significantly reduce long-term maintenance. There's something else you look at every day in the kitchen: the lighting. If it's in the wrong place, even the brightest lights won't help you see what you're cutting. 11. Poor lighting placement. An acquaintance of mine recently finished a remodel with beautiful recessed lights spaced perfectly across the ceiling. Looking up, it was flawless. But every time she stood at the counter to chop vegetables, her own shadow fell directly onto the cutting board because the lights were behind her rather than in front of her. She ended up having to buy clip-on lights for the shelves above just to see what she was doing. In a brand new kitchen, she was already patching the lighting. She realized the problem wasn't a lack of light. It was that the light was in the wrong spot. This mistake is extremely common because many people prioritize a symmetrical grid on the ceiling. It looks good from below, but when you stand at the workspace, your body blocks the light. Recessed lights over a countertop should be placed about 12 to 18 inches away from the wall rather than in the middle of the room. When the light is closer to the wall, it shines directly down onto the work surface instead of being blocked by the person standing there. Under cabinet lighting also makes a bigger difference than people realize. Since upper cabinets block overhead light, the countertop area is often the darkest part of the kitchen, even though it's where you need the most visibility. A simple LED strip tucked under the upper cabinets solves this for a very low cost. Regarding color temperature, many people choose 4,000 Kelvin or 5,000 Kelvin bulbs because they want that bright, showroom white look. However, light that is too cold causes eye strain over time, especially in the evening. A range of 2,700 Kelvin to 3,000 Kelvin is usually much more comfortable for daily use. If you install dimmers, you can crank up the brightness for cooking and soften it for dinner or late-night snacks. A kitchen where the lighting can change with the time of day is always more livable than one with only one setting. 12. Half-baked smart tech and fragmented ecosystems. One question few people ask before buying smart kitchen appliances is whether the main kitchen will still function normally if the smart part fails. With most appliances today, the answer is usually not entirely. A friend of mine installed a voice-activated faucet, a touchscreen refrigerator, and a Wi-Fi oven from 3 different brands. 6 months later, each appliance had a different app that wouldn't sync with the others. The refrigerator screen lagged, the faucet got stuck and wouldn't drain due to a battery failure, and the oven app stopped updating because the manufacturer released a new model. He spent more time repairing appliances than cooking. Smart appliances have a much shorter lifespan than mechanical ones. A refrigerator might last 10 to 15 years, but a touchscreen might stop supporting it after 2 or 3 years. You pay extra for the smart features, but they're the first to expire. If you still want a smart kitchen, prioritize appliances that support the MAT protocol for seamless synchronization on the same platform. But more importantly, the mechanical parts must be durable and function well first. Smart features are just an added bonus. Touchless faucets must have manual override, and ovens must bake perfectly even when the Wi-Fi is down. The kitchen is where cooking takes place, and any appliance that complicates that task, no matter how smart, is going against its purpose. I'm not telling you this to scare you away from remodeling. I'm telling you because knowing beforehand is always cheaper than fixing it later. You don't need to avoid all 12 of these mistakes. Just be aware of their existence before signing the contract. If you could go back to the beginning of the remodel, what would you change first?